Hey, hey, hey. Good morning, boys and girls. It's your boy, half wolfman, half amazing. Yeah. Been a few days, I know. I was wanting to get back on here a little sooner, guys. Obviously, here in America, land of the free, home of the brave. We had a series of unfortunate events kind of happen, and I'm not gonna act like I got all the answers on that one because y'all have done your research. We've all been watching, been on YouTube, checking the news, this and that, and that's a sad thing when freedom of speech is kind of set with someone, getting shot and killed for, peacefully, and Charlie Kirk, that's obviously who we're talking about here. Having a peaceful gathering debate. Never seen a guy articulate better. I'm a pretty wise wolf myself, but that man, he had it kind of figured out as far as how to talk to people, and well, you see what kind of happened there, and I just, condolences for the families involved. Is just, we needed this break, and that's why I haven't been on here posting. We've had some late nights just, looking at everything, taking it all in, and I kind of wanted to give a 3-day grace, if you will, as far as in respect to him, because, that's borderline like JFK and Martin Luther King right there. We just witnessed right before our eyes, and that's tough to watch, guys. I know y'all probably seen it, and that's really terrible. There's no other way to put it. I'm a peaceful wolf. I'm a wild wolf, of course, a wise wolf. Y'all know I'm half wolf, half amazing, but that hits you right here, and that hurts. When you see something like that, that's not right, guys. I know there's been some people speaking out in kind of a very hurtful way, in a bad way. I mean, to celebrate something like that, there's really no place for that in America, and I'm for freedom of speech. Charlie was for freedom of speech. That's what we all get on here and do. That's what YouTube's even about, freedom of speech. But man, some of the things we've all seen as far as people celebrating this and that, guys, that's just crazy. I mean, good golly, I couldn't even come on here and do what I wanted to because of that. And I mean, rightfully so. That was a huge event in America, guys. Just huge event. I know Charlie had a place called Turning Point USA, and I'm sure that's just going to be even bigger now than ever. It was a true turning point in America. Y'all can feel the shift. Everybody's kind of on edge out there. You can kind of sense it and see it, and kind of makes you wonder, where do we go from here as far as speech and how people treat each other. And it's man, people losing their jobs over this stuff, and wow, like I said, just a huge event. I mean, and before September 11th, it's been 24 years now on that, and it's just wild, guys. And but I had to get back on here. The show must go on. I know Charlie would want people to go on and speak, and Charlie, he never even claimed to be right on stuff, everything. He was prove me wrong, let's have a talk about this. And that's what's so crazy about this, and I think that's what's got everyone up in arms, and rightfully so. We're supposed to be able to talk. We're supposed to be able to be peaceable, and we, over these last few days, didn't witness that in America. I think the response from everyone has been almost what you would expect. I know that's something people can't plan. You just react. Every action has a reaction. I think everyone's just digesting this, absorbing it, and like I said, man, want to try to keep things going because we all gotta still speak our truths and keep the wisdom flowing. I encourage anyone to go watch much of Charlie's clips. I mean, I know people already have. People that didn't even know about him learn about him. He had the young wolves really hyped up on some good learning and thought process. He wanted people to think for themselves, not just listen to the narrative of the media. I don't support mainstream media myself, and that's why I'm on here for you guys. And I want to kind of continue to get the truth out this way. And that's good that YouTube has that right now, because a lot of people are saying, oh, get rid of social media, get rid of this and that right now. I would have been for that 10 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. We didn't need social media. Now we need it. It is needed. The truths have to be expressed. People have to get their ideas together in a peaceful way. What you guys seen as far as September 10th, that's not the way. That is the coward's way. We've seen this stuff before, though. History, it does kind of repeat itself, like I said, with the JFK, MLK, Kennedy, them guys, Lincoln. People go back to Lincoln, too. That's before our time a little bit. But, man, this one really shook America to the core, I think. And going from September 11th, thinking about that, that was such a huge event. A lot of y'all know about. And then to kind of see this just completely take the spotlight. And I think it really goes to show where we are as a country, where we want to go, where we need to go. Like I said, it's people got to come together in a good way and make some good out of all this, because bad things happen, terrible things happen, and it's always just something else to watch when you see it unfold, and then the way people progress from there. It's always something that throughout history, it's quite the thing to observe, because it shapes who you are. Just like my beard here. I mean, I woke up a little wild. I can shape this thing. I can do this, working formable, I think, a lot of times, that kind of is a biblical form as far as we can be shaped. Potter's hands. It's like God being the potter, we're the clay. Everything happens for a reason. I know it's hard for people to accept, but I've noticed everything in my years happens for a reason, and you got to search for the reasoning behind it. Why does it happen? Talking about the Bible, it has a lot of things in the Bible. We look at bad things in the Bible that happened, as far as things happening to people, and we say, why does that happen? We literally ask ourselves, how does that happen? Why does that happen? And I'm telling you, it has to do with a shaping and a betterment for us, because so much of life is learning. And I mean, we don't want to learn the hard way. I know a lot of us have learned the hard way on things, and you say, man, if I could have just known that, and wouldn't have made you the, person you are today. Or, you got your lone wolves out there. But I mean, I feel like that's why I had to get back on here, as far as saying the show must go on, because the wolf pack has to come back. The wolf, the leader kind of always leads from the back in the wolf pack, but there's a wolf pack, and the lone wolf even has to come back sometimes. But, there's times to be alone, there's times to pack up, and think here in America right now we're seeing a packing up because so many wolves were scattered, lone wolves, and we're seeing a submergence, if you will, of minds coming together, kind of grinding gears and thoughts and kind of keeping the wheels turning on this ride we're on because it's already in motion. You know, I think we were at a stage where everyone was doled out, even with social media. You know, people were trying to come up with new ideas, what hasn't been done, and now people are getting back to the basics somewhat. But where do we go from here? It's going to be interesting, guys, because, you know, stick around for the ride. You know, pay attention to your, you know, influencers like me and whatnot, because you're going to see the tide is shifting. And I can't tell you how the tide's shifting, so to speak, but it's shifting. We're going to see it. Almost like, you know, here it is Sunday. I want to, you know, kind of switching gears here a little bit. Sometimes that's what I do. I just switch gears, but that's a valuable, you know, thing to learn in life, how to switch gears. So keep listening, keep watching. You know, I always tell people, do your own research. The truth's always out there, been out there. It's the wisdom and knowledge you got to kind of find. Biblically, it's in there. I tell people, read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John right now, even on a Sunday. A lot of people are wondering, where's the answer to everything that happened? There's wisdom right in there. So what I was even switching gears on as far as how you got to turn the tide, and it's a lesson to be learned in life. Fantasy football. Here we are Sunday too on that. I had Tua for the Miami Dolphins last week. Terrible game. Interceptions off the yin-yang. He's going to come back this week. How does he respond? That's a lesson, people. How do we respond? When you get knocked down, howbeit, whatever it is, when you get knocked down, how do you come back? Whether it's the next day, the next minute, the next second, the next hour, the next week. We're going to see that with Tua today. I don't really recommend starting him for fantasy football, per se, if you got a better option this week. But I think we're going to see him respond. We're going to find out if he's a sheeple or a wild wolf this week. You know, I'll get into that a little bit real quick. We got sheeple out here, and we got our wolves, of course. Wild wolves, you know. Who the sun sets free is free indeed. That's biblical. That kind of explains a little bit of who I am as far as half wolf, half amazing. You know, it's good to learn and be a sheeple. I understand, you know, there's a time for a lot of things in life. There's a time for this, there's a time for that, and then there's a time to move on and learn. And that's kind of how you progress, where you got your kind of wolves like us. I know I got some good wild wolves out there watching me too, you know, where you're a wisdom wolf in your own way. You're a lone wolf possibly, but, you know, you also know how to be a wise wolf, you know. And that comes with experience a lot of times. Some people, they just get it quicker than others. Some people are very quick learners. Some are slow learners. You know, shoot, Wolfman don't claim to be the fastest learner in the world at all. You know, but give me a little time. I'll figure it out. You know, we'll figure it out together. And just wanted to say, you know, much love, guys. Keep on trucking. It is Sunday. Like I said, the show must go on. You know, we're going to get through this. We're going to be better, I think, because of this. And that's just how it goes in life. Ups and downs. Roller coaster. We're on this ride, guys. Ups and downs. Valleys and peaks. And, you know, probably in a valley right now. But that's where you do a lot of learning. That's where Wolfman here learned a lot of stuff in that valley. So, let's walk through it. Let's get to it. Let's keep to it. Like I said, freedom of speech is a beautiful thing. Let's use it the right way, guys. Peace and love. And I'll talk to y'all sooner than later. Like I said, could be some late night garage thoughts again. Just wanted to get out here early this morning and tell you Took a few days off for good reason, and I know y'all understand that understand. When you know, you know, and that's it, y'all. Peace.